it is to the end of the watch. Dante's boxing nation. Keep watching. Otherwise,
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So as expected, after Gennady Golovkin's very flawed performance over the welterweight champion Kell Brook this weekend, as we used to say back in the day, everybody and they mama is in line to face Gennady Golovkin next. I mean, it's starting to look like people standing in an amusement park line. Can't wait to get on that ride called Gennady Golovkin right now, okay? Now, one of those fighters who wasn't in too much of a hurry to get in the ring with Gennady Golovkin before, now he's jumping up and down to be Gennady Golovkin's next opponent, and that is the WBO champion, Billy Joe Saunders. Let me go ahead and quote what he had to basically say. He went to his Twitter. He said a couple different things. Quote, "Let's get one thing right. Kell Brook is a welterweight, not a middleweight. I am a fully fledged middleweight. There are no welterweights here. I will fight Golovkin no problems at all. I've been on to my management this morning, and I'd imagine you'll be around for a few days. I definitely want you on your next available date. The date you come back to me with will be a date that I will accept. I'll give the fans what they want, or what they want to see. I saw faults and flaws in you on Saturday that I know I can pick out. You're genuinely a good man, and I have the best respect for you, but let's see who the best is for all of the belts." End quote. Now, the first thing I noticed after listening to what Billy Joe Saunders had to say, his urgency when it comes to getting in the ring now, it's ironic that before the Golovkin-Kell Brook fight, when people ask or reporters ask Billy Joe Saunders about Golovkin, he would say, "Look, man, you're going to have to pay me $1 zillion. You're going to have to give me $5, $10 million, whatever it is. That's the only way I'm getting in the ring with Gennady Golovkin." But if you guys notice now, when he calls out Golovkin, you notice he's not even talking about money anymore. Because now he genuinely wants to get in the ring with Gennady Golovkin. And I give Billy Joe Saunders credit for that. The fact that now he's ready to get in the ring, because I believe him. I believe that he really wants this fight next. He's not just saying this, just to hype things up when he doesn't really mean it. He really wants Gennady Golovkin next. So that's a good thing. That is a really good thing. And he's one of the front runners right now. Because Gennady Golovkin, he said that he wants Billy Joe Saunders next, and Tom Loeffler, he said he wants Danny Jacobs next. Those are two really good fights right there. And now, after we've seen how Golovkin looked against Kell Brook, as far as I'm concerned, a Golovkin versus BJ Saunders fight is a 50-50 fight. I mean, you guys have to think about the fact that BJ Saunders, he beat Chris Eubank, all right? He beat Chris Eubank, who is a very aggressive fighter, but I would say he's a lot more athletic, has better head movement than a Gennady Golovkin, and BJ Saunders, he beat Chris Eubank. So after watching what Golovkin did against a very athletic, a very quick Kell Brook, I could see Billy Joe Saunders having a very good chance in there with Gennady Golovkin. Something else I want to address, I want to talk to you decafs. These decafs out there that are willing to defend Gennady Golovkin no matter how terrible he looks, no matter how flawed he looks. I'm telling you right now, if Golovkin is one of your favorite fighters, there's nothing wrong with that. But you guys are not helping Golovkin at all. You're doing him no favors if you guys are acting like you don't see major flaws that can possibly cause Gennady Golovkin to lose when he faces much better competition than a welterweight. And let me give you a perfect example of what I'm saying. For example, my son, both of my kids, they box. I box as an amateur and I train my kids. My youngest son is a 4-time state champion, 2-time national champion. But when we go out and my son, he spars, there's times where he's in the ring with a kid that is nowhere near on his level. And when they spar, even though my son will win all of the rounds, he may look sloppy. He may make mistakes that he's not supposed to make. And when we leave the gym, I criticize the hell out of his performance. And I don't talk about any of the good stuff he did. I only talk about the negative stuff. That's all I'm focused on. Why? Because the bottom line is, if you're making mistakes like this against a kid that's not on your level, imagine how you're going to deal with the guy that is way better than this. Some kid with 80 amateur fights that you're facing at the Silver Gloves or the Golden Gloves or the Junior Olympics. If you see a problem, you nip that problem in the butt before it gets worse. You take care of the problem early before it exacerbates, right? So if I were to just say, oh man, you kicked that kid's ass, you got the best of him, did you see how everybody was coming up to you after you spar saying good job, etc., you whooped his ass. And I don't talk about any of the mistakes that he made, I'm not doing my son any justice. I'm setting him up for failure, right? And that is exactly what you guys are doing with Gennady Golovkin. If you are a big supporter of Gennady Golovkin, you should be focused on the flaws. But see, the problem is, the reason why you guys don't focus on the flaws, because you guys have a gangbanging mentality. What that basically means is you feel that you have to defend Gennady Golovkin at all costs, right? If you feel, you guys look at things like it's our team against your team, like it's our race against this other race. That's how these decafs look at things. That's why, once again, they set themselves up for failure. I hear some of these fans say stuff like, hey Dante, how could you criticize Golovkin when he got a knockout? He fractured Kell Brook's eye socket, etc. But that logically makes no sense at all. Because if you really pay attention to what's going on right now, it's not just me, it's the whole boxing world that's criticizing Gennady Golovkin's performance. Even Jim Lampley, who's the grand wizard of the decafs, even he was criticizing Gennady Golovkin's performance. How come Jim Lampley didn't say, hey man, forget all of that. He got a knockout and that's all that mattered? He didn't say that. Bernard Hopkins was standing right next to Jim Lampley. He didn't say that. And if you listen to all of these commentators, if you listen to all of these boxers, they're all saying the exact same thing. So you fans, once again, you are in denial. Now, just to show you guys that I practice what I preach, when Deontay Wilder, for example, before Deontay Wilder was the heavyweight champion of the world, I was criticizing Deontay Wilder a lot. In fact, I criticized Deontay Wilder so much, even Deontay Wilder, he even confronted me when I met him at his media workout a long time ago. And he said, I heard you said that you thought, Bermane Severn is going to beat me, etc. I truly thought that was the case because I seen a lot of flaws in Deontay Wilder's performances. Even when Wilder got first round knockouts, I criticized his performance. Like I remember when he fought against, who was it? Lakovic. When he fought Sergey Lakovic, he knocked him out in the first round, but I didn't like the way Deontay Wilder was backing up. And Sergey Lakovic, he was backing Wilder up with his jab. I didn't like the fact that Deontay Wilder, he wasn't controlling Lakovic with his jab. And I talked about that. I said he's going to have to work on this kind of stuff. That is what you call practicing what you preach, right? This is what you guys don't want to do when it comes to the fighters that you personally like. But the irony and the hypocrisy of it all is when it comes to fighters on a coincidental list, when you see them fight, they could have a flawless performance And if we talk about how flawless or how good of a performance they had, then these same fans that will defend fighters on a hope list like Gennady Golovkin, then all of a sudden they'll say, oh, you're just a Ward lover. Oh, you're just a Deontay Wilder lover. And then they start talking about this gay shit. You know what I mean? You're just dick riding, etc., which that's just a code word for N-word lover. We already know what time it is because they only use these code words when it comes to fighters on a coincidental list like Deontay Wilder, Terrence Crawford, Floyd Mayweather, Guillermo Rigondeaux, and the list just goes on and on and on. But see, that's what they call you when these fighters actually have a very dominant performance, right? But then when their fighters doesn't have a dominant performance, then all of a sudden they start saying, hey man, why don't you leave him alone? He got the knockout. Why you got bad things to say? So the reason why I'm bringing this up is you call somebody a lover, you call somebody a dick rider and all this crazy stuff, but that's exactly what you are doing to a T when it comes to the fighters that you actually prefer, the fighters that you actually do like, right? So we know what time it is. We know this is all based on race. It's based on who you like and who you don't like. For these decafs, it has never had anything to do with boxing. That's why you will sit here and you will allow your favorite fighter to fail just because you feel you have to support him no matter what, even at the cost of him possibly getting knocked out in his next fight, right? Once again, that is a gang-banging mentality. If your gang is doing drive-bys and they accidentally shoot the wrong person, killing old people, killing kids, you're still going to support them because you're loyal to your gang. Regardless if you feel it's right or wrong, you're going to tell people everything they do is right because you're going to be loyal. And if I was that way with my kids would not be as good as they are today because I would just be using pride saying, oh yeah, you kicked his ass, etc., instead of always trying to improve, working on new things, always trying to get better. That is what you're supposed to do if you really care about a particular fighter. So going back to Billy Joe Saunders, once again, I really like the fact that Gennady Golovkin, now that he looked very human in this last fight, I keep telling you, it reminded me of Ivan Drago, this fight against Kell Brook did, because for the first time we seen the Eastern European fighter bleeding. We seen him battered and bruised, and the fight only went 5 rounds. We seen him tired. We seen him swinging wild. We seen him looking very mortal in this fight. So now, when you look at opponents like Chris Eubank, Billy Joe Saunders, Danny Jacobs, Canelo Alvarez, no matter who Gennady Golovkin faces next, it is going to be a very competitive bout. This Kell Brook fight, it gave a lot of fighters a newfound confidence. I truly believe that a lot of fighters, they're going to go into this fight saying to themselves, I don't care how hard Golovkin punches. I don't care how tough he is, what type of knockout streak he has. I know that if I take Golovkin into deep waters, I can drown him. And that is the natural consensus after watching the Kell Brook fight. Once again, guys, Kell Brook is a welterweight. He is not a middleweight. Even Gennady Golovkin himself said that. Even Golovkin said that himself. You know, somebody said in my comment section on my post video, they said, you know, this is, you know, people are overdoing it basically. They're reaching. They're basically saying that Golovkin looks so bad. Why don't people just acknowledge the fact that Kell Brook is just a good fighter? We already knew Kell Brook was a good fighter going into this fight. I've been telling you guys since Kell Brook, before he moved up, I've been telling you guys that Kell Brook is possibly the best welterweight champion in the division right now. I've been saying that for the longest. But what you guys have to understand is Kell Brook was a massive underdog going into this fight. Kell Brook was a welterweight going up against one of the hardest punchers in the sport of boxing. You guys see the difference? So the fact that Kell Brook, it didn't matter how good Kell Brook was. You're not supposed to be able to go in there and give the hardest puncher his most difficult fight. And Kell Brook didn't give Golovkin a difficult fight by just moving and moving and moving and frustrating him. Kell Brook gave Golovkin a difficult fight by standing there, standing his ground and fighting Golovkin, not showing fear. That's what made Kell Brook look so good in this fight. That's what made Golovkin look so vulnerable in this fight. Because Golovkin wasn't used to a guy fighting him back. And I believe Terrence Crawford said it in my video. We need to see how he does against a guy who fights back. That's what Terrence Crawford said about Gennady Golovkin. And we've seen a taste of that this weekend. But it was against a welterweight. It wasn't against a middleweight. And once again, this is the reason why fighters like Billy Joe Saunders, Danny Jacobs, and other fighters are now waiting in line to be the first person to dethrone and upset Gennady Golovkin. I told you guys before in my last video, Canelo Alvarez, he would be a complete fool if Canelo Alvarez does not jump on this opportunity. Right now, Canelo Alvarez, he has an opportunity to become the first person to beat Gennady Golovkin. And if he allows these other middleweight fighters to do it before him, he misses out on a perfect opportunity to catapult his career into pound for pound status. So, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video. But at the end of the day, Gennady Golovkin, he has some very good options. Me personally, I would prefer to see Golovkin versus either Danny Jacobs or Canelo Alvarez next. Those are the two fights that I would like to see, or the two opponents that I would like to see Gennady Golovkin choose next. I wouldn't be surprised if he picks Billy Joe Saunders. I'm going to tell you guys right now, if Canelo does pick Joe Saunders, it is Golovkin personally picking Joe Saunders over the likes of a Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs has the best chance, I believe, of knocking out Gennady Golovkin. I'm not making a prediction on that fight yet until it comes to fruition. But I'm telling you guys right now, Danny Jacobs is a very good fighter. And if Gennady Golovkin were to beat Danny Jacobs, I would give him a lot of credit. I would definitely give him a lot of credit. But I truly believe with Danny Jacobs' speed, his athleticism, his footwork, his inside and his outside game, he would be a very difficult challenge for Gennady Golovkin. I even believe Billy Joe Saunders would be a very, very difficult fight for Gennady Golovkin. All of these guys after watching this Kell Brook performance. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. That's all I got for now. I'm on to the next one.